The Ark of the Covenant, also called the Ark of the Testimony or the Ark of God, was a sacred religious chest regarded as the holiest object by the Israelites. According to tradition, it was a wooden chest overlaid with gold, topped with an ornate lid known as the Seat of Mercy. The Hebrew Bible and Old Testament, particularly the books of Exodus and 1 Kings, state that the ark contained the tablets of the law, which held the 10 Commandments given to Moses at Mount Sinai. Additional texts, the books of Exodus, Numbers, and the Epistle to the Hebrews, also note that Aaron's rod and a pot of manna were kept inside. The biblical account describes the ark being constructed roughly a year after the Israelites left Egypt, following the specific design God gave to Moses while at the foot of Mount Sinai. The gold-plated chest, carried using staves by the Levites, was transported about 2,000 cubits, roughly 800 meters or 2,600 feet, ahead of the people during their travels. God was said to communicate with Moses from between the two cherubim on the ark's cover. Jewish traditions vary regarding the ark's ultimate fate. Some say it was taken to Babylon, hidden by King Josiah in the temple or in underground chambers, or concealed by the prophet Jeremiah in a cave on Mount Nebo. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims it resides in Axum, while the Lemba people of southern Africa assert ancestral possession, maintaining a replica in Zimbabwe. Other traditions suggest it may have been in Rome or Ireland, though no evidence conclusively confirms its location. The ark is also honored by Samaritans, symbolized in Christianity as a type of Christ and the Virgin Mary, mentioned in the Quran, and recognized as spiritually significant in the Baha'i faith. Scholars continue to debate its historical movements in the ancient Near East, the dating of the ark narratives in the Hebrew Bible, and possible influences, such as Bedouin or Egyptian, on its creation. The Talmud in Yoma suggests that the ark was removed from the temple near the end of the First Temple period, and that the Second Temple never housed it. One view holds that it was taken to Babylon when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem in 587 BCE, along with the exile of King Jeconiah and the upper classes. Another theory proposes that King Josiah of Judah hid the ark to protect it from destruction. Its exact hiding place remains unknown, though one Talmudic account mentions a priest suspecting a tampered stone in a chamber used for wood storage, hinting that the ark may have been concealed there. Another theory proposes that the ark remained hidden beneath the Holy of Holies. Some Jewish scholars, including the Radak and Maimonides, suggest that King Solomon built underground tunnels under the temple to protect the ark, which King Josiah later used. Excavations in this area have produced little evidence, largely due to political sensitivities. According to 2 Maccabees 2:4-10, the prophet Jeremiah hid the ark and other sacred objects in a cave on Mount Nebo, modern-day Jordan, in anticipation of the Neo-Babylonian invasion. Archaeological research indicates significant cultic activity at Kiriath Jearim during the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, long after the ark was supposedly moved to Jerusalem. Excavations revealed a large elevated podium associated with the northern kingdom rather than the southern kingdom, which may have functioned as a shrine. Scholar Thomas Romer argues that this could mean the ark wasn't relocated to Jerusalem until much later, possibly during King Josiah's reign, circa 640 to 609 BCE, which might explain why the ark is prominent in earlier narratives, but less so after Solomon. Additionally, 2 Chronicles 35:3 notes that the ark was moved during Josiah's reign. However, Yigal Levin contends there is no clear evidence that Kiriath Jearim was a cultic center during the monarchy, or that it housed any temple of the ark. K.L. Sparks proposes that the story of the ark was originally composed around the 8th century BCE as a separate ark narrative, which was later incorporated into the main biblical text just before the Babylonian exile. Romer also speculates that the ark may have contained sacred stones similar to those found in pre-Islamic Bedouin chests, possibly representing a statue of Yahweh or paired statues of Yahweh and his consort goddess Asherah. However, Scott Nogle argues that the Bedouin parallels are unconvincing because those chests lacked the ark's unique structure, function, and method of transport. They had no box or lid, were not gold-plated, had no cherubim, and were carried on camels or horses rather than by poles. Nogle suggests that a better model for the ark is the ancient Egyptian solar bark, which shared many of the ark's features. He also notes that Egyptians sometimes placed written covenants beneath statues' feet, providing a parallel to the placement of the tablets of the covenant inside the ark. Levin holds that some biblical texts suggest that the Ark of the Covenant was only one among many other different arks at regional shrines prior to the centralization of worship in Jerusalem, although Ronan Eichler disagrees. While Clifford Mark McCormick has questioned whether the Ark ever existed, other scholars such as Eichler, David A. Falk, Roger D. Isaacs, and Adam R. Hemmings have defended its historicity and antiquity linguistic evidence, and notable similarities with artifacts from New Kingdom Egypt support interpretations of the Ark's design and significance. In the New Testament, the Ark is referenced in both the letter to the Hebrews and the book of Revelation. Hebrews 9:4 notes that the Ark held the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. Revelation 11:19 describes the prophet seeing God's temple in heaven opened, with the ark of his covenant within his temple. In the Gospel of Luke, the accounts of the Annunciation and Visitation use 8 points of literary parallelism to liken Mary to the ark. Early church fathers, including Thomas Aquinas, interpreted the ark's contents as symbols of Jesus Christ, the manna representing the Holy Eucharist, Aaron's rod symbolizing Christ's eternal priesthood, and the tablets of the law representing Christ as the lawgiver. Aquinas also saw the ark's combination of wood and gold as reflecting the hypostatic union, Christ's dual nature as both human and divine. He wrote, "The ark, wherein were the law and the manna, signified Christ, who is the living bread that came down from heaven and the fulfillment of the law. Moreover, the wood overlaid with gold signifies that Christ was true man and true God." Catholic tradition also identifies the woman of the Apocalypse in Revelation 12:1-2 with the Blessed Virgin Mary, calling her the Ark of the New Covenant. Carrying the Savior within her, she becomes a living Holy of Holies. This interpretation dates back to the 3rd century with Gregory Thaumaturgus and was echoed by 4th century figures like Saint Ambrose, Saint Ephraim of Syria, and Saint Augustine. The Catechism of the Catholic Church describes Mary as a symbolic ark. Mary, in whom the Lord himself has just made his dwelling, is the daughter of Zion in person, the Ark of the Covenant, the place where the glory of the Lord dwells. She is the dwelling of God with men. Saint Athanasius of Alexandria also drew parallels between Mary and the ark, writing, "O noble Virgin, truly you are greater than any other greatness. For who is your equal in greatness, O dwelling place of God the Word? To whom among all creatures shall I compare you, O Virgin? You are greater than them all, O Ark of the Covenant, clothed with purity instead of gold. You are the ark in which is found the golden vessel containing the true manna, that is, the flesh in which divinity resides." Homily of the Papyrus of Turin. The Ark of the Covenant is mentioned in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah 2:248, where it is described as a sign of Saul's kingship. Their prophet further told them, "The sign of Saul's kingship is that the ark will come to you, containing reassurance from your Lord and relics of the family of Moses and the family of Aaron, carried by the angels. Surely in this is a sign for you, if you truly believe." According to 2 Maccabees 2:4-10, written around 100 BCE, the prophet Jeremiah, following God's warning before the Babylonian invasion, took the ark, the tabernacle, and the altar of incense and hid them in a cave. he instructed his followers that the location should remain unknown until the time that God should gather his people again and receive them unto mercy. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church claims to have the Ark in Axum, where it is kept under strict guard in a treasury near the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. Every Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church contains replicas of the tablets inside the Ark, known as tablets. Each tablet resides in its own Holy of Holies and is dedicated to a particular saint, most commonly Saint Mary, Saint George, or Saint Michael. The Kebra Nagast is often thought to have been written to legitimize Ethiopia's Solomonic dynasty, established in 1270, but this is inaccurate. It was initially composed in Coptic or Greek, later translated into Arabic, and finally into Ge'ez in 1321. The text tells how Menelik I, with divine assistance, brought the Ark to Ethiopia, leaving a forgery behind in Jerusalem. While the Kebra Nagast is the most well-known account, the belief that Ethiopia possessed the Ark predates the text. Abu al-Makarim, writing in the late 12th century, also mentions the Ark in Ethiopia, describing its role in liturgies held 4 times a year, at the Nativity, the Baptism, the Resurrection, and the Feast of the Cross. In his 1992 book, The Sign and the Seal, Graham Hancock describes the Ethiopian tradition that the Ark spent several years in Egypt before being transported via the Nile to Lake Tana, where it remained on islands for about 400 years before reaching Axum. However, archaeologists and scholars have strongly criticized Hancock's claims. John Holliday of the University of Toronto called the theory garbage and hogwash, and Edward Ullendorf, former professor of Ethiopian studies at the University of London, said reading it was a waste of time. In a 1992 interview, Ullendorf recounted seeing the Ark in Axum in 1941, describing it as a wooden box, but it's empty, constructed in the middle to late medieval period, made ad hoc. On June 25, 2009, Abun Paulos, Patriarch of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, announced that he would reveal the Ark of the Covenant, which he said had been safely kept in a church in Axum. The next day, he reversed this decision, stating that he would not unveil the Ark, but could confirm its current status. The Lemba people of South Africa and Zimbabwe claim that their ancestors brought the Ark south, referring to it as the Ngoma Lungundu, or Voice of God, and eventually hid it in a deep cave in the Dumgi Mountains, their spiritual homeland. In a UK Channel 4 documentary on April 14, 2008, Tudor Parfit, approaching the story literally, examined the Lemba claim. He noted that their object shared many features with the biblical Ark: similar size, carried on poles by priests, never touching the ground, revered as the voice of their God, and considered a powerful weapon against enemies. In his book, The Lost Ark of the Covenant, 2008, Parfit also proposed that the Ark was taken to Arabia after the events in 2 Maccabees, citing Arabic sources suggesting it reached Yemen. Genetic studies in the 2000s revealed that part of the male Lemba population has a partial Middle Eastern origin, though no direct Jewish link was confirmed. According to Lemba tradition, the Ark spent time in a place called Sena, possibly in Yemen, then was brought across the sea to East Africa, possibly during the era of Great Zimbabwe. Their oral history states that the original Ark eventually self-destructed, after which Lemba priests constructed a replica using a core from it. This copy was discovered in a cave by Swedish-German missionary Harold Philip Hans von Sickard in the 1940s, and later transferred to the Museum of Human Sciences in Harare. In the 2nd century, Rabbi Eliezer ben Jose claimed to have seen the mercy seat lid of the Ark in Rome, noting a blood stain he was told came from the high priest's sprinkling on the Day of Atonement. Another tradition holds that the Ark was kept in the Basilica of St. John Lateran, surviving the invasions of Rome by the Visigoth king Alaric I and the Vandal king Gaiseric, but was ultimately lost when the basilica burned in the 5th century. Between 1899 and 1902, the British Israel Association conducted limited excavations at the Hill of Tara in Ireland, searching for the Ark. Irish nationalists, including Maud Gonne and the Royal Society of Antiquaries of Ireland, RSAI, successfully halted the excavations to prevent damage to the site. Later, a non-invasive survey by archaeologist Conor Newman from 1992 to 1995 found no evidence of the Ark. British Israelites believed the Ark had been buried at the grave of the Egyptian princess Tifi, who, according to Irish legend, arrived in Ireland in the 6th century BCE and married King Ahriman. Due to the historical importance of Tara, Irish nationalists such as Douglas Hyde and W.B. Yeats publicly opposed the excavations, and in 1902, Maud Gonne led a campaign against them. In 1988, the CIA initiated a project known as Sunstreak, which employed individuals claiming psychic abilities to locate distant objects or places. One such remote viewer, identified as Number 032, reportedly described a container resembling the Ark, made of wood, gold, and silver, adorned with 6 winged angels, and situated in a dark, guarded chamber, possibly in the Middle East. The psychic cautioned that unauthorized attempts to open the Ark would result in destruction by powerful entities protecting it. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.